I always say that it is a Sunday tradition for Republicans to humiliate themselves, for Donald Trump to defend the most indefensible actions that he has taken and statements that he has said over the past week. But that label of Republican does not restrict only to members of Congress. The folks at the Fox propaganda outlet as well love to debase themselves. And that is exactly what Shannon Bream did this morning in an interview with Tim Kaine, in which she tried to defend all of the actions of Doge and was quickly shut down and shut up on our own show. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me now. Let's get into this interview.
So you heard there the discussion about some people want them to get a divorce. Would you put yourself in that category?
No, it's the policy that matters to me, not the bromance. I don't really care about that. And look, the policy is one that is real trouble. I'm all for government efficiency. When I was governor, Virginia was the best managed state in America. But when you come in and the first thing you do is you fire the inspector generals, those are the people whose job it is to find waste, fraud, and abuse. When you fire them, you send the message that efficiency isn't the goal. Doing things to benefit yourself is the goal.
Do you not think all these cuts, though, are sending the message that that efficiency is the goal? I mean,
No.
Doge has got an up and running website. They've got Twitter feeds that are showing exact contracts, exact things they're finding. And a lot of American people are surprised to find that their tax dollars are going to some of these efforts.
The message in Virginia, Shannon, isn't that the efficiency is the goal. Here's a message that they're waging a war on veterans. They're doing willy-nilly layoffs at the VA. And since 30% of the federal workforce is veteran, and Virginia is a veteran-heavy state, that's the way it feels at home. Cutting research, cutting health clinics, cutting Head Start programs. The inspector general firing, the message out of the gate is this is a group of people that want to pad their own pocket. They're going to cut things to try to amass a lot of dollars that they're then going to use to do tax cuts for the wealthiest. And that's the playbook we saw in the first Trump term, and I think we're seeing it again.
All right, I want to read you the words of newly elected president. The people demand and deserve a government on their side, but they don't want a government that wastes money, a government that costs more and does less. They voted for change. They wanted a literal revolution in the way the government operates, and now you and I must deliver. That was Bill Clinton in 1993 talking to his cabinet. One of the first things he called for was a reduction of 100,000 federal employees, and he went way beyond that in his 8 years.
And you know what he did, Shannon? He worked with Congress to do it. And Donald Trump has 2 Republican houses. He's got a budget discussion that has to have a resolution by March 14. Why isn't he getting the Republican leaders down in the White House and saying, here's what we're going to do? He's making all these cuts without them because he doesn't even think the Republican leadership will go along with him. Bill Clinton did things to shrink the size of government, and he did it with Congress. There's a difference between that and ignoring Congress and violating the law.
But the executive branch does have a lot of authority and purview over things that are within the executive branch and decisions about money and how it's dispersed. I mean, that is part of the president's authority.
The president has authority, but the president also has to follow the law. There's this law that the Impoundment Act, that says once Congress has appropriated dollars for a particular purpose, the president is not allowed to say, yeah, I don't like that. I'm going to spend this money, but not that money. The president needs to follow the law. And that's why, so far, there's a whole lot of lawsuits that have been successful. They'll go through appeals courts, but a lot of the president's extreme executive actions that hurt folks are being challenged in court right now.
They are. Some of them on hold, and we'll follow those. And we're going to talk about those a little bit later in the show, too. But here's reaction to how Democrats are now pushing back on Doge and those efforts. Peace in the Hill says this: Democrats' relentless attacks on Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency make it clear which side they're on. Spoiler alert, it's not the side of the taxpayer. So do you worry about the optics of so much outrage at Elon Musk and the Doge team versus outrage about some of the stuff that they're uncovering?
Yeah, I think my outrage is about who they're hurting. I don't care about the bromance. That who cares about the bromance? I don't like letting unelected officials, post. Yesterday, the Doge guys post classified information on their website, and they had to realize, we didn't realize that agency was a classified agency. You shouldn't let people run rampage through offices that have classified information. And again, I view this in Virginia from the perspective of we're a veteran-heavy state. There's a war on veterans. When they're slashing in the VA, and when 30% of the federal workforce is veterans, compared to like 2 to 3% of the civilian workforce, you do indiscriminate cuts. I'll tell you who it hurts. It hurts veterans.
Do you take any solace, though, in the fact that there have been a number of positions at the VA that have been walled off? They are not eligible for cuts or buyouts because the administration was aware that there were concerns about that.
I do take some solace in that, but here's an example. There are 2 veterans clinics waiting to open in Virginia, one in Chesapeake, one in Fredericksburg. They've been built. We've spent them, and they're in areas where there's high percentages of veterans. Their opening days are now thrown into question, and when they do open, they'll be short-staffed rather than full-staffed because of the actions of the Trump administration. That's no way to treat veterans.
Okay, let's talk about funding, because all of this gets wrapped in as well. The funding battle that's coming,
Yes.
federal funding runs out on March 14th.
Yep.
A lot of people say, oh, in D.C. time, we've got plenty of time to figure this out, and maybe you do.
I don't like it, though. No, I'm not wild about that. We should have done it last year.
Well, here are 2 recent headlines. New York Times, 2 Democratic senators said on Sunday that their party would not rule out forcing the federal government to shut down. The very next day, USA Today has this headline: Dems say they are open to shutting down the government. Now, you've said in the past that shutdowns are not good for the American people. You've talked about Virginia. You've talked about military families that are a big part of the Commonwealth. You said this: it inflicts unnecessary harm on federal employees, government contractors, and millions of Americans who rely on government services. So, should a shutdown this time around, now that Republicans are in control, should it be a threat? Should you be guys using it as leverage?
I never use it as a threat. I don't like the fact that Donald Trump is shutting government down as we speak. You know, he says, I want to shut down the Department of Education, shrink the USAID staff down to 250 people. That is a shutdown unauthorized by Congress against the law. I don't like that, and I don't think we should be contemplating shutdown. Look, the Republicans, as you point out, Shannon, they have all 3 levers. They got the White House, they got both houses. They got to figure out a budget deal. We could have done one last year, but after the November election, they said, well, let's wait till 2025 when we have all the levers and we'll do a budget deal ourselves. So far, you can see there's a lot of confusion between the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans. We know where this is going. It's tax cuts for the wealthiest is going to come very, very soon. We saw that in the Budget Committee this week. But they're having a hard time getting on the same page.
Well, they do say that in extension of the 2017 tax cuts, the IRS itself said in a nonpartisan way it benefited every tax bracket. So that's the argument from Republicans. And
not equally, but there were benefits, but the benefits were overwhelmingly to the wealthiest and big corporations.
So it's hard to believe it hasn't been a month of the new administration. There's a lot that's happened. CBS polling out there saying people describe President Trump as tough, energetic, focused, and effective. 70% say he's doing what he promised, and he's got the highest approval rating he's ever had with CBS News. So with that in mind, let me read you something from a colleague of yours, Democrat Congressman Ro Khanna, the House side. He says, we have to acknowledge that we spectacularly failed to recognize in the last election that the status quo was broken, and Americans are feeling a righteous anger about the real damage that the governing class has done to their lives over the past few decades. These new numbers show people so far, a majority of Americans are happy with what President Trump's doing.
I think the CBS poll said 62% of Americans say Donald Trump isn't doing enough to bring down prices. Eggs are through the roof. There's an article in the New York Times today about construction costs going up. And I just met with my farmers in northwestern Virginia Friday. They're petrified about the tariff effect on agriculture and forestry because they saw what happened when Donald Trump did government by tariffs in his first term. In Virginia, people are really worried about mismanagement of the economy and tariffs and prices going up. They're worried about these folks who fire the inspector generals and seem to want to pad their own pockets. They're worried about attacks on education and research. There's a lot of concerns out there.
All right.
The idea that Elon Musk cares about getting rid of government waste can be so clearly, as we saw, shut down just by pointing out that the people solely responsible for doing so, the inspectors general of those agencies, were immediately fired. What Donald Trump and Elon Musk want to accomplish is a lack of oversight as they install their lackeys to allow them to commit all the crimes they want and engage in all the corruption they care to undertake. That is what this is about. It is about FTY to Donald Trump. And it is about the guise of, look at us. We're saving you money. We're cutting the waste as we actually give ourselves a giant tax cut that's going to cost you billions, if not trillions of dollars. That is what it is all about for Donald Trump. That is what it is all about for Elon Musk. And this is not the only example of Republicans or Foxos getting called out just for that. We also saw Jared Moskowitz appear on Jesse Waters' show and shut down the same lie he was trying to push.
All right, well, so what? Let the lawyers figure it out. You guys can let the lawyers battle it out in the courts, but why do you guys go out there and sing songs and act crazy and look like you're pro waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, every American now thinks the Democrats are defending waste, fraud, and abuse.
Well, look, what do you want us to do? Storm the Capitol? I mean, that's already been done. Right?
That's our job. That's our job. Leave that to us, Moskowitz. No, but I mean, you guys can act normal. So you guys don't have to go out and, like, we have stuff, $156 million for schools to Pakistan. They never built a single school. And you keep handing them the money, Pakistan, which hid bin Laden for a decade. Why don't you guys just say, yeah, let's get rid of that stuff, too. Let's work together.
Listen, we should get rid of it. 100% we should get rid of it. And this stuff has been going on for decades, just like your chart showed, right? And so that's why I joined the Doge Caucus, because I believe in the mission, but you got to execute it correctly. And this is going to come to a head on March 14th when we got to figure out how to keep the government open. You're not going to be able to do it by CR anymore, because if you do it by CR, then what we're really saying is, okay, look, Doge says they found all this fraud, waste, and abuse. If you do it by CR, you're going to refund all of that stuff.
All right, listen,
so we're going to have to do it with
Congress can't cut
bills.
any money. You can't do it. You've driven this country into a $36 trillion hole. Someone else has to take charge, okay? We did it your way.
Well, the Republicans are completely
in
charge, Jesse.
It doesn't work your way. You guys can't handle the credit card. It's being cut up by Doge. If the Supreme Court is going to say something, let it go to the courts. But right now, you have to convince Maxine Waters.
The debt is not going down, Jesse.
Tell Maxine Waters to knock it off.
The debt is not going down.
What's not going down? The debt? No kidding, because you guys can't stop spending.
Yeah.
So Musk is trying to do something. Fire a couple people, get rid of the waste. I wouldn't resist that. I would just sit back and watch and say thank you.
Well, again, that's why I joined the Doge Caucus, right? But if we're going to tackle the debt, Jesse, it's going to have to come through Congress. I have bad news for you. Elon and the president are not going to be able to do that themselves. It's going to have to come through a spending bill.
So why did Bill Clinton fire 400,000 bureaucrats? Why is that fine for him to do, and Doge can't lay off bureaucrats now?
Listen, I'm not saying don't go shrink the size of government. I'm for shrinking the size of government. I'm just saying the debt is so large, that's not going to solve the problem.
When I have talked to members of Congress about how we can more successfully communicate this message, the conclusion that we have come to, and you see this when I talk to people on the show, is that we have to be everywhere. We have to be on the networks we don't like and podcasts we don't listen to. We have to go on Joe Rogan. We have to go on Fox Help. We have to go on Tim Pool, as Rana and I talked about. We have to go to the places where people are not hearing the points that we need to make the truth. They don't hear it when they're only listening to Fox unless we bring it to them, and that's why I'm glad Jared Moskowitz is doing it. Tim Kaine is doing it, and we have to be talking about that every single day, and we're certainly going to be on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button and can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.